Good evening and welcome to Adventures in DeFi Kingdoms. This is your host, Raph speaking. Tonight, I have Neindorf with me. He's emerged from his bunker and has survived the crypto apocalypse. So, Neindorf, how you doing?
Pretty good. Welcome, listeners.
All right. Well, it's January 24th. It's a Monday, and today we had an AMA. You were able to log in and catch it. Let's before we get to the AMA, let's first go to a very special question of the day. You got one off of Discord.
Yes, I did. I made sure to get his approval first. It was Jackson MCD, I believe his name is, and he kind of posted this, and it really got me thinking here. And his question basically was, it seems as though there's only four skills on heroes. You got your two actives and your two passives, and I guess the question is that enough to make this interesting? What do you think?
That's a great question, and a big thank you to Jackson first for all of the Always Sunny in Philadelphia memes that he's dropping in Discord. Those are absolutely my
Oh, those are
favorite.
amazing.
You gotta love some Frank. All right. Well, to the question,
Yeah.
I would say, you know, it it does feel kind of limiting, and especially when we learned last week that they are absolute base skills, and that therefore advanced one on a warrior is the same as advanced one on a thief, and so I think it could be kind of limiting. And although they say that combat's being balanced around the heroes that you have and their stats and abilities, I've seen with other games, that's a great way to add a lot of depth to a combat system. And so I guess I'm hopeful that that might grow or change over time, or maybe the complexity of the skills grows in some way. What do you think?
Yeah, so again, wild speculation here, but I kind of have two thoughts. I guess the first is that, to me, it seems like what they've talked about with this blockchain sort of combat, where you're going to have almost limited interaction. I don't think you could have a tree of eight skills, and think of how many transactions you'd be having to do if you wanted to navigate between eight skills.
Sure.
Like that kind of seems like that would be difficult, right?
Hmm.
And then secondly, I kind of think that it's possible that these actives and passives could be, like we talked about before, say it's evade, right? I mean, that could technically apply to any class, and maybe it isn't as specific. Maybe the actual skills that you're going to spend skill points on, I suppose those could be class specific skills that we haven't even seen yet, or maybe that's inherent to the code in the game and not necessarily the blockchain data. So I think we got to remember too that there's also a game that is going to be able to, maybe the game makes an assumption that if you're a warrior, you have these skills, and it's not necessarily purely blockchain data. So that's kind of what I was thinking.
That's true. I mean, you could also have, different levels of attack, yeah, as we've seen in some games where you have a light attack and maybe a power attack that uses more
Right.
stamina or something like that. So, yeah, I think you're right that they certainly could add a few layers on top of what we're seeing now, and truthfully, I'm hopeful that that's the case.
I think so, and I think they have to do that because it's pretty clear to me that the data they included on chain is all the stuff that's important for genetics and maintaining a diverse hero pool. I think on top of that, like you said, your basics, there's no reason to put that data on chain. So, yep.
All right, well, let's go to Dev Dive section next and give our listeners and viewers an update on the current website and the state of the system of what you're building.
Yeah, so I've stumbled upon some free time here over the last few days. The Hero Viewer tool, I hope everybody's finding it useful. We've continued to add and cobble together features, I would say. But the big thing is that with that API that had been behind by several days that the devs have given us, those GraphQL servers, I updated it so that it's able to pull hero data directly from the Harmony blockchain. So now, as soon as you summon a hero, you can basically go to the site, paste his ID number in and pull that data immediately, which is great in my opinion.
It's
Um,
fantastic. Thank you so much for all the extra work on that. Well done.
you bet. And then the other two features along with that, three actually rather, you can now, if you put two hero IDs in there and you hit the compare button, it'll highlight in yellow where there are possible mutations. Like if you put a monk and a pirate, that'll show up as yellow, and that's kind of inferring that ninja. It doesn't say ninja, but that's an improvement we could make in the future. Um, Next thing is you can show descendants. Someone in Discord had posted that, and then I was gotten to think too. It's really interesting to see what have our Gen Zeros produced over their lifetime, and it's kind of difficult to see that otherwise. So I also added that feature. So you paste in the hero ID and you hit show descendants, and here's a list of all the heroes they've summoned. And maybe I use this tool on your turn, I guess you'd say, and maybe we can talk about that later if you feel up for it.
Yeah, well, we could cover it now. I'm a little bitter. Uh, yeah, I decided I was a little jewel strapped and hired him out, and I think he found that I was a legendary. So I guess I used up my good karma there, and missed out on a big opportunity. But
Not
as
to pour some salt in, but it was a legendary ninja, and then it was also a rare ninja on the other one.
yeah,
So,
yeah, I know.
uh,
It's yeah. I try not to think about it, because it certainly the opportunity cost or opportunity benefit was 7 and 5 jewel respectively. So that's pretty disappointing. All right,
and yeah,
moving on
you're out of
before
that.
my Gaia's tears in real life start springing forth. All right, and on the note of the website as well, you're also highlighting the possible mutations between skills, and that's something that I've started to
Yes,
look
that's
at
true.
and track. And so, again, that's basic one and basic two compare together to become advanced one. Um, and so that's pretty exciting, and I think that's going to have. Well, already we're starting to see the marketplace pick up on the value of having some of these more advanced skills. And so I believe we saw a tavern listing tonight. Again, today is January 24th on a Monday. Tavern listing for $350 for a common hero with a transcendent skill. So pretty neat that the marketplace is starting to adjust for this information already, and we're still in the early stages.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's really cool to see.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to the AMA notes. I'm thankful that you were able to log in and check this out. I had a busy day, so go ahead and take us away. What stuck out to you first about the AMA?
Yeah, let's a quick rundown here. So the first thing not in chronological order, of course, but just they'd mentioned that the Harmony team was creating what they call a quote unquote task force to help DFK succeed. And to me, I think that's huge. That tells me that the Harmony team understands their success. One reached an all-time high, or a couple different all-time highs in the short reign of DeFi Kingdoms here. I think they're understanding that their success is DeFi Kingdom's success. So that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, that is fascinating, and especially there's that the partnership with the grants as well. So it's excited to see
Yep, and
that continue to grow and develop. So yeah, very interesting. Tell us about the
that
scholarship
leads
program.
directly to the next point.
Yeah,
Yep, sorry. Um, they've continued to talk about this, and the details were really light before, and I think they finally started to add a little bit here that's interesting. Um, the first thing was is that they actually said that these bloater tokens, for example, are out there on the blockchain, and they said if there's developers out there who have new and cool and interesting ways to use that token, bring it to their attention, and it's a possibility if you have a really cool tool. Or maybe it's a side game or something to do with these on-chain tokens, they might actually give you some grant money, and I assume in the form of Jewel, either from Harmony and I think with a cost share of from their pockets as well. So you just imagine that if if you've got like I don't know, maybe you're a real life fishing fan and you want to create a fishing game and you create it and you're pulling out bloaters. That was kind of what they alluded to, but that's just a really interesting idea
I
and
can't
the
wait for the Candy Crush of bloaters.
oh yes, the creativity of this community though I think is going to take that places.
Yeah, that's really neat. I keep thinking about, one of my favorite genres of all time is Final Fantasy, or well, I guess not a genre,
Yep.
RPG, but a game style. And in a couple of those games, they have mini games where you actually play with cards. And you actually play a card game. It's like a game within the game. That would be a
Oh
really
yeah.
neat or cool way that you could somehow use your heroes to do some kind of light battle. So that's really impressive. I hadn't heard this at all before we talked. So gosh, I'm really excited about this. What else do you have?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and then along that lines of the scholarship, they talked a little bit more about that idea of um, the scholarship, meaning if you're a person who is a quote unquote a summoner who you basically have too many heroes to quest out, um, that you can put those guys up for rent, and some of the these people who can't maybe afford a hero at this point at current prices could at least use your hero. And I think the point of that would be that you get a little bit of the rewards of that as the hero owner, but I mean your hero also gains the XP. So I mean that's you know it's
Great.
kind of a
That way
good
my
on two
Gen Zero
fronts.
heroes can go out and earn an egg for someone else. Fantastic.
Yeah, no doubt,
They'll
right?
summon legendaries and
Uh,
earn eggs for others. No, all joking and bitterness
yes.
aside, that's really cool. That's just a great way for people to be able to, kind of pay it forward, give back to the community. I know something that, and again, I want to tease this out there, as we haven't talked about it in a while. And our subscriber numbers are starting to go up, and we're probably within a week's time away from doing our first subscriber milestone. And so our first subscriber milestone
Oh,
is
that's
getting
cool.
to 100, and we're going to give away access to 10 of our free subscribers. And so we also have access right now that we're giving out to our paid subscribers. And, they can, for listeners out there or viewers out there, you can access that through Anchor. And so we'll put that in the show notes if you're interested in getting the Tavern system right away, which is now blockchain powered. And then, of course, if you're budget constrained, or that's just you're not in it for subscribing, that's fine too. We're going to be giving away 10 of those access alerts to our system, and probably do that on a live stream here in the next week or so.
Yeah, that
And that's,
sounds
of
great.
course, once we get to the 100 mark. And then our next milestone is the 200 subscriber mark. And our goal there is, or our incentive there is, we're going to be allowing our user base to hire essentially our heroes for summoning. And so you get to use a Gen Zero hero for summoning, and you could choose to rent them out like I did, and you get the jewel proceeds, or you can hire them out, and we're just going to charge you the ad cost fee. And so you could either pair our two heroes together. Again, we have a monk fisher, and we have a pirate gardener, or you could take one of those and try to hire out someone else inside the tavern. So I'm really excited about doing that. I think that'll be a lot of fun for either our Discord community, or just our listening and viewer community out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
All right. Well, I think that sums it up for scholarships. Let's talk about the garden policy updates.
Yeah, so this one they kind of mentioned a little bit in passing. I probably won't say a whole lot, other than it kind of seemed as though moving forward they want to get rid of, or not get rid of per se, but maybe sunset some of the garden pairs that don't have jewel in them,
Mm,
or maybe some
yeah.
of the tokens that it doesn't make as much sense anymore.
Yeah.
And we saw that with was it Superbid already, I think. So I think they're just going to keep trimming the
Hmm.
weeds, if you will,
Right.
there.
Right.
Um, but the next 2 points here are big, so let's get to these guys.
Yeah. Keep rolling.
They Yeah, they had quite a bit of talk about other blockchains. So the first thing they mentioned was that um, Phantom, the Phantom blockchain on its own, I don't know if it was internally or members of their community, went and they created a DEX that, or pool, sorry, on one of their DEXs for Jewel on their own, which is really interesting because it shows they're sort of gearing up for that thought.
Hmm.
And the Phantom has been on a lot of people's short lists as for one of the other realms
Right.
after it, Avalanche. So I thought that was really interesting. It sounds like there might be some gears moving,
Yeah.
not official DFK gears, but kind of like the community's willing it, I guess.
Yeah, I would say there's been enough hints dropped here and there that that one's got to be on the short list. You're right about that.
I would think so. And then the next blockchain they talked about was the actually that Polygon had reached out to them. Again, another one that was kind of on a lot of people's short list. And apparently that's a common thing for Polygon is that they are interested in either replicating games with the original game developers' consent it seemed, or bridging them. And I think in DFK's world that would be bridging in the form of a new realm. So and that
Mm.
and I believe it was I forget who was talking, but they said that was very interesting to the devs of DeFi Kingdoms. So I'm
Yeah,
sure we'll hear more on that.
hearing this, something else that I'm thinking about. I'm remembering back they had a AMA with this team. Gosh, I want to say it was about 2 months ago now, which feels like ages in the crypto
Yeah.
space. But it was during one of the first big booms of Jewel. I think it was on its initial run up to $10, and they talked about, that um, it wasn't that they suddenly. It was the influx of having the ability to bring in other tokens into the game is what they believe contributed towards um, that sudden influx of people buying Jewel. And so
Oh,
in a
right.
very similar way, as we're going through hopefully the worst of the Jewel dips that we're going to see this year, that they're talking about some of these new development projects that will ultimately bring stability to the token and be beneficial for all of us as token stakeholders. So that's pretty neat.
And I guess I hadn't thought of it that way, but it's kind of like, if you're an entrepreneur in the physical world, not in the crypto space, and you get, a deal with a new company, like say you now all of a sudden your product's stocked on the shelves of Walgreens or something. I mean, you're going to reach a whole lot more users
Right.
than you would have otherwise.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really interesting. That's cool.
Yeah. And what's next on your AMA notes?
All right, last one here, and I'm particularly excited about this, especially, since we're just talking about possibly reaching new users. I think this one's huge. They talked about building a fiat on-ramp so that you would possibly be able to just take your dollars and purchase Jewel in-game and
Mm.
avoid that whole mess of trying to find an exchange and withdrawing it out. For a lot of people who are, especially those people, like some of my friends who aren't really in this game yet, it's a little uh, they're hesitant because of all the wallet management. This would help a lot. I mean, they're used to like Robinhood, for example, where you just buy it and sell it, and that's that. I think this could open the door to a lot more people.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this would be pretty big. Every time I'm trying to get someone else involved, if they have not been in the crypto space for more than 6 months, it's just a straight up hard pass in terms of the learning curve of getting into this. And I don't know. I guess maybe I'm dating myself a little bit with the crowd that I'm hanging out with. But um, yeah, I think this is fantastic. Well, wow, that's really exciting.
And I want to mention one last point about this too. They were very explicit in both talking with other blockchains and the fiat on-ramp providers that they will only do it, it seemed like, if there is a cost share so that they can feed some of the fees that a user would pay back into the Quest fund and back to
Mm,
XJewel holders, which was huge. I guess I never even really had considered that. When you buy crypto with fiat, usually it's just the owning company of whatever that exchange is just taking that profit. But DFK kind of seemed like they wanted it to make sure that at least they get some of those fees to to reward the actual in-game holders, which is awesome too.
Yeah, which makes sense because that's how all of their other, kind of transaction systems really are designed to, to keep that powering, the in-game systems. It's pretty interesting on that note. It sounds like the garden reward pools are still pretty stable in terms of the transactions powering those, and it's seeing growth instead of depleting its reserves. So that's fantastic that they're
Absolutely.
thinking, as we've said before, a couple steps ahead. So pretty cool there.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Well, let's go to the combat corner and leveling up. You let me know that you had a couple level fives and you took a snapshot here. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over screens and show a quick Discord image here. Right now I have on screen Jaxina Slate Slayer, Wizard
Yeah.
Monk here, level 5.
Yep.
Is this a Fisher?
Yeah, so that one's she's my number one forager.
Oh, nice, nice. All right, so
Um,
on the columns here, there's of course the primary growth, secondary growth, bonus, which is of course the guy's blessing that you choose, and then the rarity bonus on the side. So for maybe those of the listeners who aren't as familiar with the level up system, can you walk us through what does the rarity column mean, and how is this calculated?
that's right. Yeah, so I think we might have talked a little bit about this with Mr. Zipper in the past, I believe, but was it him? I think it was,
I think
yeah.
it was, yeah.
Um, but effectively, it's every 5 levels you get extra rarity bonuses, and it goes up. So, funny story about this. This was actually my second hero to hit level 5. My first was the old common ninja fisher that I've been talking about in the past that just keeps just pulling in items.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, as a common, he got no bonus, so it was like a anticlimactic level 5, I guess. But this one here, yeah, she used her rarity in order to gain that extra 4 rolls of stats, which I was really happy. Kind of countered the otherwise, I would say, somewhat crappy roll that I got on her level up. So, uh, as far as how it's calculated, that part, I don't know. The way that they word it is very confusing. I think it's actually relatively simple. I think you just, what is it for uncommon? You get, is it 2 extra? Do you remember? I'm trying to reach
Off the
the.
top of my head, no. But let me see how I can pull up the
I want
docs.
to say it was like 2, 4, 6. I want to say it would jump by twos for whatever reason I'm thinking. But yeah, you basically get extra rolls, and it just can't be stats. They have to spread across the stats following certain criteria. Basically, to try to give your more rare heroes more general leveling across all stats, not just class specific stats. I think is the takeaway though.
Yeah, I'll, 1 second here. I'll bring it up. I think. Maybe it's in the rarity section of the docs.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
can't remember
I
where
can't find it.
stuck that. That's
Yeah,
all right.
I mean,
We can
I
paste
think
the
you
notes.
you touched on it pretty well, and of course, go read the docs if you want the exact details on it. You come here for the hot takes, not for the data.
There you go.
All right, well, I think that about wraps it up for us. Any closing comments that you have for our listeners?
I think the only other thing that really didn't I hadn't discussed that I was kind of thinking, we talked about the jewel price going down, right? And I think, we'd also talked about the Gen Zero prices dropping, and maybe with this price of jewel turning around, before it does, if we see hero prices go up in terms of jewel, not in terms of like actual dollar value, um, anybody I would say who's holding more rare heroes that they intend to sell, I mean, I think this might be one of your last great opportunities. Again, if the hero prices go up, um, I just say that because I got super lucky right before jewel prices kind of started exploding because of all the avalanche announcements, and I
Hmm.
had that common 303 sage that I ended up selling for like I want to say it was like 775 jewel, and now
Nice.
if you look at them, they're like 300 jewel, and and with the price declines, you're kind of right back to where you would have been at the time I sold. So keep an eye on that, listeners. If you see those hero prices go up and you got heroes you want to unload, I don't know that we're going to have a lot of opportunities moving forward. I think this price is going to keep going.
Yeah, that's a great point. We're really not that far away from, some significant changes happening in the game, and hopefully that leads to, Jewel bouncing back a little bit right now with our Barkeep Blessing bot. We're looking at Jewel around just above $8. So,
Yep.
yeah, that's a fantastic point. That now is really the time to be in Jewel accumulation mode. Hold on to that, and go ahead and reap some of those profits. Hopefully, when that bounces back up. So, great advice for the listeners out there, and for those of you. Who we're all in this together. We're a community, and it certainly has been a little bit of a scary last couple days. But hang in there, and this is normal for crypto markets. And so, well, it's not financial advice, but it feels normal for crypto markets. And I'm hanging in there, still very bullish about the game, and kind of glad that we heard these AMA notes. So, thank you very much for that. And all right, well. I guess that's it for us from Adventures in DeFi Kingdoms. This is Raf and Neindorf signing out.